Greetings. This is Paul the Poke from paulthepoke.com. Today's topic: sacrificial system rejected, casting lots, and Azazel. So, this is another entry into this series. And again, for those of you who are picking up for the first time, the framework of this series was from an article that was posted by Yehuda Frank at allisrael.com. Forgiveness, Yom Kippur and the Messiah's atoning sacrifice. You can click on the link here if you want to check that out. And essentially, there are 4 proofs in the article that support God rejecting Israel's Yom Kippur Yom Kippur sacrifice. So I know a lot of you comment frequently about how we don't need sacrifices anymore and have concerns about that when talk of the third temple and the sacrificial system. No, you're right. It does not need to be reinitiated. But it's going to be. It's prophetic. Jesus quotes Daniel. And that said, don't worry. God's not recognizing it. And this is just another post in a series of posts, I think, that will remove all doubt that God is not interested in Israel's Yom Kippur sacrifices or Day of Atonement sacrifices, because Jesus is that sacrifice, the atonement for sin. Now, specifically, let's get to the 4 proofs. I'm sorry. The lot of the Lord was in the left hand. That's the one we're going to talk about tonight, part of it. The crimson strap remained crimson. The western light was out. The doors of the temple were open in the morning. We're going to break each one of these 4 down in some detail. And in this particular post, we're going to study the idea of casting lots. Now, simply stated, this is a chance decision by drawing straws or casting pebbles. Or in today's vernacular, let's roll the dice. Now, it hardly seems like a reasonable solution to a serious consideration or a decision, but there's Proverbs 16, verse 33. The lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord. So the idea, God controls the pebbles, God controls the straws, he controls the dice. Einstein even said, God doesn't play dice. Everything is intentional on purpose. And that's, it's kind of hard to consider. But here are a few things. There are plenty of examples in the Bible where casting lots were utilized. And I picked a couple of them. I remember God himself commanded the Israelites to divide the land according to lots. And that's in Numbers 26, verses 55 through 56. Be sure that the land is distributed by lot. What each group inherits will be according to the names for its ancestral tribe. Each inheritance is to be distributed by lot among the larger and smaller groups. So, it's stated twice within those 2 verses, distributed by lot. And then the same concept is restated in Numbers 34, verse 13. The land is to be distributed by lot. And so, there we go. We have, an example in Numbers 26 and an example in Numbers 34. We have 2 witnesses to it. We have 2 witnesses within these initial set of verses. So it's restated 3 times. So God's clearly pretty serious about it. King Saul was chosen as Israel's first king by lot in 1 Samuel 10. If you guys want to read that. Casting lots sniffed out Jonah at sea. They were on the ship. Bad weather was hit. Who's responsible for this? Let's cast lots. Well, guess who? Jonah's responsible. Throw him overboard. He's going to get swallowed by a big fish. So, the idea, and I think they casted lots to replace Judas in Acts. So it's a common practice in Scripture, and the idea is, it seems to be chance, but every decision is from the Lord, as noted in Proverbs 16:33. Not exactly how we would go about doing it, or we would think to go about doing it in today's 21st century Western culture. And there's always something to be said for the first time the occurrence takes place in Scripture. It sets a precedent, and it shows how God's going to manage things and work his way through an event or circumstance. And so, guess what? The first time the concept of casting lots is noted in the Bible is in Leviticus. And, the context, well, actually, that wouldn't be true. It'd be up in Numbers, would be the one we saw before. So that's not exactly just proofreading this. That's not right either. But the idea of casting lots is noted in Leviticus 16, which is what we're going to talk about in regards to Aaron, the high priest, and a Yom Kippur sacrifice per the Mosaic law. So there is an example of casting lots in the Bible in regards to two goats and the Yom Kippur sacrifice. Leviticus 16 verses 8 through 10, and Aaron shall cast lots over the two goats, one lot for the Lord and the other lot for Azazel. Take your pick. Many ways to probably say it. Azazel. And Aaron shall present the goat on which the lot fell for the Lord and use it as a sin offering, but the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement over it, that it may be sent away into the wilderness to Azazel. So one goat becomes the scapegoat, and it says to be sent away to Azazel. And then so, begs the question, well, who is Azazel? And we're looking at the only 4 times it's used in Scripture. 1, follow the cursor, 2, 3, and then down here in Leviticus 16, verse 26a, and he who lets the goat go to Azazel. So we get it 4 times in Leviticus 16, and that's the only 4 times that it's used in the Bible. Now, by most accounts, the word has an uncertain meaning, but the text also seems to indicate Azazel is an entity. And then that's where where would we know about that? And that would be from the book of Enoch. And the book of Enoch offers insight into the watcher, Azazel. So, before we get into that, acknowledge a few things here. Yes, Enoch is an extra biblical book. It's as we see it today. And we have the book and the writings because the book was on Noah's Ark and survived. And remember, Enoch was arguably the first preacher. He walked with God and was no more, so he was an upright, righteous man, and God took him. So it's not like he was a quack and a heretic. The original King James Version, I didn't know this until I got to looking into this, was included, or the original King James Version included the book of Enoch, and then it was omitted later. Jude 1 in our Bible quotes the book of Enoch as a source of information, and the early Christian church recognized the book of Enoch until the 4th century, and that's when a lot of things started to break down, was around the 4th century. And you started getting away from the early church fathers, and then we started getting some different opinions or interpretations. And again, according to Enoch, Azazel is a fallen angel. Enoch states who Azazel is. He's a fallen angel. And I find it interesting, Enoch, who is arguably the first one raptured, that's when some of the heresies about rapture being taken out of, rapture as a concept was kind of taken out of the Bible in that sense. All the early church fathers they believed in the rapture. And you think about it, Jesus talked to John, who talked to Polycarp, who talked to Irenaeus, all those guys, they believed in a rapture. Jesus taught them that. But we get to the 4th century, we start introducing things, and even the book of Enoch was included as part of Scripture, disappeared for like Oh gosh, 12th century, showed back up with King James. He included it. Then a couple 200 years later, then it was removed from the King James version. So, and that's the thing about the Book of Enoch. It was written from the beginning, and its intention, as it's stated, is to reveal information to the end times generation, the last generation. And I find it interesting, the Book of Enoch starts showing back up in discussion. Uh, Early 20th century, it starts to make its, starts weaving its way back around, and is what it is. Just something to think about. Do your own homework. Just my thoughts on it. Um, Enoch 8, verses 1 through 2, and Azazel taught men to make swords and daggers and shields and breastplates. So, again, pre-flood, those things didn't exist until Azazel taught people how to make swords, daggers, shields, and breastplates. And he showed them things after these, the art of making them, bracelets and ornaments, little jewelry, the art of making up the eyes. So we got some makeup, cosmetics, beautifying the eyelids, most precious stones, more jewelry, all kinds of colored dyes as well. So, fashion, dyeing curtains, clothing, hair. The world was changed, and there was great impiety and much fornication, and they went astray, and all their ways became corrupt. So, and that's not to say man was not sinful before Azazel, because that's clearly the case. Adam had fallen. We were already into the entropy of sin caused by the fall. Azazel comes along and, hey, let's get some more sin going. Um, and we're going to talk about some of those things. So just to recap, so Azazel introduced weapons of war, jewelry, makeup, cosmetics, more jewelry, fashion, seduction, and he was found guilty. Enoch 9, verse 6, so then what Azazel has done, how he has taught all iniquity on earth and revealed the eternal secrets that are made in heaven. In Enoch 10:4, well, before we get into that, that's not to say these things are, is it bad now for women to wear makeup? I don't know the answer to that. Is it bad for dyes to have things dyed different colors? I mean, we can find examples in the law, like the dyeing of wools and the dyeing of curtains and some of the things for the temple. They are to be dyed and changed color. The breastplate of the high priest has precious stones on it. Now, does that mean that's bad? No. I mean, I thought about that. My wife and I discussed this. Maybe it's more about God's timing. It was God's timing when He was going to introduce these things to humanity, and Azazel jumped the gun. I don't think God would introduce something sinful to humanity. In the breastplate, precious stones. I think it's, a lot of it has to do with coveting, I would suspect, but I mean, just a lot of speculation and thought here. And even makeup, we hear about dressing modestly in the New Testament, and there are guidelines for dressing. Men are to wear men's clothes, women are to wear women's clothes. And I think probably, from our standpoint, we're to dress modestly, not to be seductive or provocative or those sorts of things, as it's discussed in the New Testament. But something to noodle on at any rate. But at that time, humanity clearly perverted these things. And we get to Enoch 9:6. See then what Azazel has done, how he taught all iniquity on earth and revealed the eternal secrets that are made in heaven. Chapter 10, verses 4 through 6. And further, the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel by his hands and feet. All right, tie him up real good. Throw him into darkness and split open the desert, which is in Dudael. And I have no idea where that is. I tried to get some more detail on that. Some people think it's in Syria. Some people thought it was in Egypt. Lots of different speculation. Throw him in there, and throw on him jagged and sharp stones. So stone him. That's what the judgment is for sin in the Old Testament. When death was involved, stone him. And not with these nice little round rocks. I mean, get something jagged and sharp and inflict some pain. Cover him with darkness and let him stay there forever. Oh, yeah, by the way, cover his face, blindfolding, so that he may not see light. And so that on the great day of judgment, he may be hurled into the fire. So, introduction of sin, introduction of more sin into humanity, clearly not appreciated by God. God gave instructions again to Raphael. Hey, another angel, tie this one up, this bad one up. Enoch 10 verse 8, and the whole earth has been ruined by the teaching of the works of Azazel, and against him write all sin. Okay. So Azazel is the essence of sin. The scapegoat was a symbol for the totality of sin for the people of Israel. So take sin back to its teacher is the idea with the scapegoat, or the scapegoat named Azazel. Take sin back to its teacher. Azazel, or the scapegoat, was designated by the high priest to take away the sins of the nation, Israel. The sins of the people were transferred to the goat and led away from removal. So the idea, let's remove the totality of the sins away from the people, off of the people. And we get that from Leviticus 16, verses 21 through 22. And Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat. This idea of transferring sin. Aaron, on behalf of the people, transferring sin to the head of the goat, and confess over it all the iniquities of the people of Israel and all their transgressions, all their sins. So sin, sin, sin of Israel. Get rid of it. He shall put them on the head of the goat and send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a man who is in readiness. So they had somebody ready to run the goat out. The goat shall bear all the iniquities on itself to a remote area, and he shall let the goat free in the wilderness. So there you have it. Little bit about casting lots and Azazel in this particular post. We're going to also probably look, I know we're going to look next time, the idea of the lot was cast into the left hand and the significance of that. And we're going to look at this probability of this happening for 40 consecutive years and some statistical probability of the likelihood that when they cast the lot for 40 straight years, it showed up in the left hand. Pretty slim. So if you're new to this, please feel free to share with others at paulthepoke.com. If you'd like to sign up, please type your email address in here. Please fill out this field, hit subscribe. You'll be notified every time we send out something. Also, we got a lot of things going on in the Middle East with Hamas and Israel, getting some chatter. Looks like we got some other actors wanting to get involved. The concern was of this spreading. The amount of military hardware the United States is sending across the ocean. Crazy times. So we'll keep you posted as events break in the Middle East as well. So appreciate you guys taking the time. Please feel free to share with others. Wishing you a great evening. Thanks a lot. Bye.